Prehistoric beginnings and early cultures. China's earliest history is rooted in the prehistoric period, extending back hundreds of thousands of years. Archaeological findings, such as those of Peking Man at Zhou indicate human presence in East Asia as far back as 750,000 years. These early inhabitants were hunter-gatherers, living in caves and using rudimentary tools made of stone and bone. Around 5000 BCE, distinct Neolithic cultures began to emerge in China's Yellow and Yangtze River valleys, the most prominent being the Yangshao and Longshan cultures. The Yangshao culture, 5000 to 3000 BCE, known for its painted pottery, developed sophisticated agricultural practices, cultivating millet and raising domesticated animals. This culture laid the groundwork for permanent settlements. Meanwhile, the Longshan culture, 3000 to 1900 BCE, introduced more advanced pottery techniques, the early use of jade, and elements of social stratification. These prehistoric communities helped create the cultural foundations that would later develop into the Chinese civilization. The legendary Xia Dynasty, c. 2070–1600 BCE. The Xia Dynasty, long considered mythical, is traditionally cited as China's first dynasty. The ancient historian Sima Qian recorded stories of the Xia in his Records of the Grand Historian, where he describes Yu the Great, a legendary ruler credited with controlling devastating floods and establishing a stable, centralized rule. Though historical evidence remains scarce, archaeological sites such as Erlitou have revealed a complex society with bronze artifacts and urban-like settlements, hinting at a possible early dynasty. The Xia era, as depicted in later Chinese texts, emphasized the divine right of kings and early efforts at flood management. These narratives underscored a deep cultural respect for order and governance, themes that would resonate throughout Chinese history. The Xia's legacy is embedded in Chinese consciousness as a symbol of civilization's triumph over natural adversity and social instability. The Shang Dynasty, 1600–1046 BCE, first recorded history. The Shang Dynasty represents China's first historically verified dynasty, with significant archaeological findings that confirm its existence. The Shang ruled from their capital at Anyang and are credited with developing China's earliest system of writing, found inscribed on oracle bones used for divination. This writing system laid the foundation for classical Chinese script, which has maintained continuity for over 3,000 years. The Shang also achieved remarkable advancements in bronze metallurgy, creating ritual vessels, weapons, and tools that displayed intricate craftsmanship. Shang society was deeply hierarchical, with the king acting as a religious and political leader who performed rituals to honor ancestors. This practice of ancestor worship became central to Chinese culture, symbolizing respect for lineage and continuity between the past and present. The Zhou Dynasty, 1046–256 BCE, the Mandate of Heaven and Feudalism. The Zhou Dynasty followed the Shang and introduced the Mandate of Heaven, a doctrine asserting that rulers were granted authority by heaven but could lose this right through misrule. This concept justified the Zhou conquest of the Shang and became a cornerstone of Chinese political philosophy. The Zhou era is divided into the Western Zhou, 1046–771 BCE, and Eastern Zhou, 770–256 BCE, the latter marking the beginning of the Spring and Autumn period. The Zhou ruled using a feudal system, distributing lands to loyal nobles who, in turn, governed local regions. This decentralized structure allowed for regional autonomy, but eventually led to fragmentation and weakened central authority. Nonetheless, the Zhou era fostered advancements in agriculture, including the development of iron tools, which increased productivity and supported population growth. Additionally, the use of bronze ritual vessels continued, preserving the practice of elaborate ancestral worship ceremonies. The Spring and Autumn period, 770–476 BCE, a time of intellectual flourishing. During the Spring and Autumn period, power became concentrated in a few major states that competed for supremacy. Although politically tumultuous, This era witnessed the emergence of China's greatest philosophers, known as the 100 Schools of Thought. Confucius, Confuzi, was one of the most influential thinkers of this period, advocating for moral integrity, social harmony, and respect for hierarchy. His teachings emphasized filial piety and the 5 relationships that defined interpersonal conduct. Laozi, the founder of Taoism, offered an alternative vision, advocating for simplicity, harmony with nature, and a rejection of rigid social norms. Taoist thought contrasted with Confucianism, emphasizing non-action, wu wei, and the idea of living in accordance with the Tao, the way. Other philosophies, such as legalism and Mohism, also emerged, each presenting unique perspectives on governance, morality, and human nature. This intellectual diversity laid the groundwork for centuries of philosophical and spiritual discourse. The Warring States period, 475 to 221 BCE. Political fragmentation and military innovation. The Warring States period saw intense rivalry among powerful states, each striving for dominance over China. This period of continuous warfare spurred innovations in military strategy and technology, including the use of iron weapons, crossbows, and chariots. Sun Tzu, a military strategist, wrote The Art of War, a seminal text on warfare that remains influential globally. This era also marked the consolidation of legalism as a governing philosophy, particularly in the state of Qin, which advocated strict laws and centralized control. Legalism's emphasis on state authority, law, and order would later become central to the Qin state's policies and was instrumental in its success. Despite the political chaos, advancements in agriculture, irrigation, and land management techniques flourished, laying the economic foundation for future unification. The Qin Dynasty, 221 to 206 BCE. Unification and centralization. The Qin Dynasty, established by Qin Shi Huang in 221 BCE, marked the first time China was unified under a single ruler. Qin Shi Huang implemented sweeping reforms to consolidate power, standardizing the writing system, currency, weights, and measures across the empire. He also initiated large-scale infrastructure projects, including the Great Wall, built to protect the empire from northern invasions, and the Terracotta Army, a collection of life-size soldiers crafted to guard his tomb. The Qin dynasty's legalist policies imposed strict laws and harsh punishments, leading to widespread discontent. Although the dynasty collapsed shortly after Qin Shi Huang's death, its centralizing reforms established administrative foundations that would influence Chinese governance for millennia. The Qin era remains both celebrated for its unification of China and criticized for its authoritarian rule. The Han Dynasty, 206 BCE 220 CE, Golden Age of Culture and Technology. The Han Dynasty followed the Qin and is often regarded as a golden age in Chinese history. The Han expanded China's territory, established the Silk Road, and promoted trade with Central Asia, India, and the Roman Empire. This period saw significant advancements in technology, with inventions such as paper, seismographs, and innovations in agriculture and astronomy. The Han emperors adopted Confucianism as the state philosophy, embedding Confucian ideals into the government's bureaucratic structure. Sima Qian, a Han historian, wrote the Records of the Grand Historian, documenting China's early history. His work remains a primary source for ancient Chinese history, providing insight into the values, accomplishments, and struggles of the early Chinese state. The Han Dynasty's achievements in governance, culture, and technology laid the foundation for China's identity as a sophisticated and influential civilization. The spread of Buddhism and religious syncretism. Buddhism began to enter China from India during the late Han Dynasty, traveling along the Silk Road. Initially regarded as foreign, Buddhism adapted to Chinese beliefs and eventually found acceptance, blending with Taoist and Confucian ideals. Buddhist monasteries became centers of learning and spirituality, and the religion introduced new art forms, such as cave temples and statuary, which became central to Chinese religious and cultural life. The decline of the Han and the Three Kingdoms period, 220–280 CE. the Han Dynasty eventually weakened due to internal corruption, heavy taxation, and peasant uprisings. The collapse of the Han led to the Three Kingdoms period, where the states of Wei, Shu, and Wu fought for control. Despite political instability, this era became legendary in Chinese culture, inspiring epic stories and folk heroes, especially as depicted in Romance of the Three Kingdoms. This era's cultural legacy persisted through the centuries, shaping Chinese views on loyalty, strategy, and heroism. This highlights the complexity and longevity of ancient Chinese civilization, from its prehistoric origins to the collapse of the Han Dynasty. Each era brought advancements in technology, philosophy, governance, and the arts, forming the foundations of a civilization that would influence neighboring cultures and endure through successive dynasties.